genetic mutations, the types and their effects. Okay, so what are mutations? Mutations are heritable changes in the genetic information. And you guys, we've already gone through the DNA sequence. We're going to how RNA makes a copy, the RNA sequence, and the exercise that we did with the codon wheel. You see how they code, the RNA codons actually code for actual amino acids. And of course, the chains of amino acids make proteins, and the protein, actual protein sequence is what gives us all our traits. Okay, so all mutations fall into two main categories. There's gene mutations, mutations in a specific gene that produce changes in the gene, and chromosomal mutations, okay, produce changes in the whole chromosome. And you got to understand, you have 46 chromosomes, okay? If one chromosome is defective, okay, the entire organism, the entire person, it can have very serious ramifications for that person. I mean, and that's what's such a miracle about childbirth, about having us, everybody in there having all our fingers and toes and can function and see and everything like that. Because if one chromosome is defective, I mean, it could be a situation where you'll never be able to go to school, might not be able to lift your head off the pillow, that kind of thing. Okay. Specific gene mutations involve, for example, point mutations involve changes in one or a few nucleotides. So like if you have a codon that's AUG, and instead of AUG, it changes to ACG, that's a point mutation, because one particular point, or specifically one particular letter changes. And if you remember when we were doing the exercise on the wheel, if one letter changes, it might change the amino acid that it codes for, from like tyrosine to glutamine or whatever. Then there's frame shift mutations. Okay, they shift in reading the frame for every amino acid that comes after. When what that means is like something is added or deleted, because the codons come in groups of 3. So if I have 2 codons, that'll be 6 letters. So if I take if I take one letter out, it's going to change the groups of 3. Okay, and that would be like a whole frame shift. And so you could have the entire amino acid change because of one shift, like one letter being deleted. The groups of 3 would group differently, and it would code for different amino acids that could change the whole function of the gene. And if a gene in the one cell is altered, the alteration can be passed to every cell. Okay, and in doing that, it can change the function, and we'll see later how it can cause problems, serious problems. Okay, these are the types of mutations, and once again, I've provided this slideshow for you. Okay, this is a normal DNA sequence, and you can see these are the RNA codons, and they code for these amino acids. Now, if you take like a C out and put in a T, okay, that's called substitution. If you substitute one of the letters, you can see how it changes. Where it was arginine right here, changes to histamine, and that changes the sequence, and whatever the function of that particular gene was can change. Insertion is a letter inserted, and that can also, the bottom line is that whatever happens can if it changes the amino acids it codes for, then it can change the actual function of the gene. Deletion is when one of the letters is just removed, and then so the groups of 3 change, and that will actually change the sequence. And in this case, I took one out, so I have I did have 12 letters. Now I got 11. So you can see how you got 2 right here that don't code for anything, and that could cause a problem. Gene mutations. In a substitution, one base is changed for another. That was like the first one on the other page. We kind of went over that. Insertions and deletions. Now, the reason we're going through this is that there are outside, some of this just happens because it happens. Sometimes there are things that you probably heard about that causes to happen like on the spot and causes real problems. One of them is radiation. Like if you were around where a nuclear bomb was dropped, then the problem with the type of radiation they have in nuclear bombs is that they cause these mutations like immediately. Like when the United States dropped the bomb on Japan, that was one of the people that weren't blown up by the initial blast. There were distances away that got exposed to the radiation, and it caused like immediately like these huge tumors to grow and stuff like that. Very cruel. That's why we haven't used that. Nobody's used that since then. But insertion deletions cause frame shift mutations, which will change the overall amino acid sequence. And and that's just by the virtue of the when the frame shift, the what they mean by that is the group of 3 codon shifts. Okay, and that will cause it to code for different amino acids. Chromosomal mutations involve changes in the number and structure of chromosomes, okay? These mutations can change the location of genes on chromosomes and can even change the number of copies of the genes. And specifically in chromosomal mutations is a big deal, especially it can cause birth defects and problems with babies. One of the things that was really kind of awful about when you talk about an example of chromosomal mutations is that I don't know if you guys have heard, but in Vietnam they got this bright idea to use this stuff called Agent Orange because it killed the plants. They figure like if they could, the areas where they were fighting, if they could defoliate the area, make it easier to see the enemy or whatever, it would be better. But the Agent Orange was like cancer causing, and it caused birth defects because it caused chromosomal mutations. And there's a class action lawsuit and a big, huge settlement payment paid out to veterans in Vietnam, the ones who are still alive, because a lot of them experienced like birth defects in their children, like 8 years after they got back from Vietnam because of that. There are 4 types of mutations: deletions, duplication, inversion, and translocation. And it's kind of similar. It's similar to the gene mutations. A lot of it's self-explanatory. You see the letters. So deletion is one of the letters is deleted. Okay. Duplication is one of the letters is copied. So like you're supposed to just have A, B, C, and you have 2 B's now, A, B, B, C. And that throws the not only structure but the function of gene. Inversion is when one of the letters in the sequence on the chromosome are switched around. And then translocation is when like it's moved from one area to the other. Okay, but anytime you alter the set code, okay, it'll change everything in terms of the amino acid and the protein sequence. And anytime that's changed, whatever the function was supposed to be will change as well. And just to be a little more specific, you guys probably get this. Deletion involves the loss of all or part of a chromosome, okay? And like I said, you got 46 chromosomes. Every one counts for, a certain function, okay? So if it's altered or structurally, if it's altered in any way in terms of the genetic code, bad things can happen, or things that happen that are not supposed to. We kind of went through this before. Duplication is when basically a letter or same letter is added in there. Inversion is when they're switched around. Translocation is when like a couple letters or we mentioned that before. Okay, how do mutations affect genes? Okay, the bottom line is that it can alter anything that can alter the protein sequence is bad. Okay, because proteins with newer altered functions can be useful to organisms, but it can hurt them as well. And one of the things about that is if you understand mutations, you really can understand what happens with cancer, because all cancer is, especially specifically like when you talk about like a cancerous tumor, is they have codons that are supposed to stop cells from dividing. Okay, but when one of these mutations happen, frame shift, point, inversion, deletion, all that, one of those happens, it can change. It can change from the sequence from having like a stop codon or a stop gene telling the cells to stop dividing at a certain point. That can be altered, and the cells keep dividing, and that's what a tumor is. Okay, like whatever part of the body it's in, when it gets to a certain number of cells, it's encoded to stop. But if there's some kind of mutation that happens and it keeps dividing, that's what a tumor is. Okay, and that's the big problem with cancer. So, and then just to kind of hammer it home about the effects of mutations, genetic material can be altered by natural events. I mentioned like artificial means like radiation or carcinogens. There's a couple pesticides out now that can cause it. I regret now, and everybody in my generation, I'm sure, regrets the mosquito. They used to have a mosquito truck that would come by, and like I lived in Houston, mosquitoes are real bad, and it would come through the neighborhood, and it was put out this mosquito pesticide or whatever to kill the mosquitoes in this big cloud, coming behind the truck. And so as kids, we would say, "Oh, it's a mosquito truck," and we would run and go, go jump through the cloud of smoke like it wasn't anything. And come to find out, that smoke the stuff was carcinogenic. It caused cancer. I don't know anybody who got cancer from that, but that shows how, we didn't know at that point. Okay. Mutations are, I want you to understand that not all mutations are bad. Some mutations are good, okay? Some of them don't affect an organism, some of them help an organism. But when diseases come about, it's mutations that alter and cause, like bad things to happen, okay? And some important mutations, like they mentioned, are caused by errors during DNA replication. Like I said, the replication and all that we've laid out for you is like a perfect world, but it doesn't always happen perfect like that. But there are ways that it gets corrected, or it doesn't it's not doesn't cause a great effect most of the time. Okay. And this is kind of interesting. The DNA inserts an incorrect base roughly once in every 10 million bases. Okay, unless there's some kind of external thing that happens. But also small changes in genes can gradually accumulate over time. Okay, and I'm gonna let you guys. These are two good videos, and this is from the like Amoeba Sisters, and this other one talks about types of mutations. And you can go into the slideshow and watch these videos on your own. The main thing I just kind of wanted to alert you to a mutation. So what we need, the key takeaway is in understanding mutations, okay, it's going to help set up us understanding about natural selection, because like I said, sometimes mutations happen for the benefit of an organism or the survivability of the organism. And I'm gonna cut that off there, because subsequently we're going to be talking about mutations in terms of like benefiting an organism. And that's all I have right now. And make sure you watch the two videos and stuff that are in the slides. Thank you very much.